In order to succeed, we really have to be realistic and cautiously optimistic. You're listening to the Architect My Life podcast, a podcast dedicated to helping empower women creative entrepreneurs such as architects and designers have it all: business growth, financial freedom, and health and wellness. I'm Aya Shlachter, your host and CEO of MGS Global Group. This podcast is also brought to you by the MGS Global Group. We provide BIM modeling and drafting services to overwhelmed architects and design firm owners. I'm excited to announce that this first episode of 2023 will feature me as a guest. Now let's dive into this episode.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of 2023. I'm Mary, the content editor of Architect My Life podcast, and I am so thrilled to host the pilot episode of AML for this year. We are here today with none other than Aya Shlachter, the host of the show. So, Aya, I hope you don't mind me taking your spot today. So, in this episode, I will be talking with Aya about how to set yourself up for success in 2023. We will also be sharing a preview of our 2023 plans at the end of the show. So, guys, make sure to listen all the way through. We are also recording this episode from Cebu City, Philippines, because Aya is here for a few weeks to work as well as to celebrate our late holiday party. But before we jump into this, Aya, I know you have interviewed a number of amazing guests in this podcast, but I think your listeners would very much love to hear and know more about your story too. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Thanks, Mary. Mary has been amazing actually in helping us really improve the content of our podcast, as this podcast is only around for a year. So a little bit about me. I'm an entrepreneur in the architecture industry. So early in my career, I worked for a few architecture firms. Started out as a junior designer doing drafting, schematic design, till CDs. A few years later, I got promoted to project manager, like managing teams of junior designers, construction administration, client relations, coordination with different consultants and subcontractors. And like many of us architecture people in the profession, I experienced burnout and had worked in several high stress environments. And as a woman in architecture and a new mom, I was, really my mental health was really suffering. So I decided to take a work break and to take care of my baby Anna when she was newborn. A few months later, I decided to launch my consulting business doing drafting for architecture firms, which is now MGS Global. That was actually in 2008, I think, so years ago. Now, this is MGS Global Group. So I always say that creatives were taught how to master their craft, but not taught how to run or grow a business. We were never taught in architecture school how to run a business. So, like many new firm owners, I had to learn the hard way. And it was not easy. I was making a lot of mistakes. But fast forward to today, 15 years or more later, we now have over 30 team members from different parts of the Philippines and the globe. So this podcast is really to highlight successful firm owners and thought leaders in the industry, to give inspiration and knowledge to our audience, aspiring firm owners. I really have the passion for sharing my business knowledge to other women who are out there doing great creative work but need some guidance in growing a business. And I think this podcast really is there as a great resource for aspiring firm owners.
Aw, that's so inspiring, Aya. You know what, guys? I feel like working with Aya have also inspired me both professionally and personally, since she's just so efficient and chill, but at the same time, she's really organized, like she really embodies the work-life balance kind of gal. So I'm sure, our audience here will find value on all of the insights from all of your guests that you have interviewed in AML in the past. So now let's talk about how to set yourself up for success in 2023. So what are your tips or practices that you want to share to our listeners?
That's a great question. And this is exactly why I picked this topic. a lot of business owners in the architecture industry, especially in 2021, were experiencing a lot of growth in their business because we emerged from the pandemic and had handled a lot of projects. But there's also uncertainty in what's going to happen next year in 2023 with, people are asking me if, maybe there might be a recession and how to really ride this out. But more importantly, most of the time early in January, a lot of firm owners really tried to create all these goals for the year. So I'm going to show, this is what I do for how I set myself up for success. The first thing I do really before we do any goal setting or planning is to really look at, the past year. Like what happened last year, you need to analyze historical data, project finances, like what projects worked, what did not work, what type of clients you gained the year before. But most importantly, really watch your finances. A lot of creatives really are afraid to really look at finances. So again, before you plan 2023, you need to look at historical data from 2022. So the first thing you do is goal setting, right? You do OKR. I use the objective key results method where I don't have more than 10 goals. I think I just do 6 goals. 2 of them are stretch goals. Normally, stretch goals are the ones that are really difficult to accomplish. And the others are the things that you really have to accomplish. So the first thing I do is to do goal setting. I do 2 stretch goals and 4 regular goals. The second, obviously, is to do planning. You need to plan for those goals, people, resources, and timelines. The third is implementation. Planning and timeline is really important. You need to create timelines because a lot of us just have plans. But if you have plans and no timeline, it does not work. After you do your timelines, then you do implementation. But the key really to success is your review and accountability. So in my company, we do goal setting, planning, and timeline and implementation. And then we do quarterly reviews with our leadership team members. Or if you don't have a leadership team, you can ask your husband or your spouse or your friend or your mentor to help you, analyze and review your quarterly goals and see where you're at. Because if you don't review, it doesn't really matter. You need accountability. So every quarter you need to reassess your goals and realign your goals because you never know what's going to happen, right? And one of the things that a lot of firm owners do is really create stretch goals that are not realistic. If you're a $2 million a year business and you have a stretch goal of 20 million, that's already setting yourself up for failure. So you need to watch out for delusion. Like stretch goals are good, but not like things that you can't accomplish. So in order to succeed, we really have to be realistic and cautiously optimistic. Therefore, when planning for 2023, we need to make sure we have the resources to achieve our goals. Like we need to have time, money, and manpower. So careful planning, resource allocation, and creating timelines are really key to setting yourselves up for success in 2023.
So these were really practical and realistic tips, Aya. And I'm sure that since you have shared this to our listeners, you've probably practiced this for years, right? So we wanted to know, how did you apply this to MGS in the past year? How do you think have you succeeded in your company or even in AML in 2022?
I really have very reasonable and manageable goals because I really want to get things accomplished. And if I just say that I want to get like 20 clients a month, that's just not going to happen. So what I did was the year before I checked who my clients were, what type of firms were working with me. Were they residential firms, retail firms, commercial firms, or hospitality firms? And I checked, historically how these people became clients, how I got them as clients. So, to be able to plan, I really targeted campaigns on like the retail industry, hospitality industry, based on historical data. And I knew hospitality was a big thing because in 2020, hospitality was down, COVID shut down. So as firm owners, you really need to know what's going on, right? So I knew that no one was building hotels in 2020, but 2021 and 2022, hotels were rebuilding because the economy was opening up. So obviously, I plan to attend expos in hospitality, Independent Lodging Congress, the HD Expo, because I already checked historical data. I knew that hotels were going to be back in. I went to the expos that targeted hotels. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the, ways that I really made my goals. After doing all that plan, obviously you do travel planning, and then you have to also plan for resources. So I got a lot of hospitality projects. I also needed to find the right staff to do hospitality work. I trained new employees under the older employees and senior to really get up to speed with learning how to do bar details or guest room details. Again, that's planning implementation. And timelines, I knew that there were, I think, 4 hospitality conferences. I also made budgets. I knew every year how much my budget was. I didn't go over the budget. So I had to see how many conferences I would go to and historically what really made sense monetarily as well when I can make my money back, return on investment. And also quarterly reviews. How many hotels did we do this year? How many employees do we need? Do we need to add more resources? Are the hospitality projects running out? Maybe we should look into the quick service restaurants. Again, quick service restaurants are the Chipotle's, McDonald's. They were also renovating their stores. So things like that. Every firm owner should be aware of what's going on globally and also in the United States, trends and what's happening.
Oh my God, that's so great. Well, you know what, Aya, working with your MGS staff in the same office, has led me to really experience or witness firsthand how effective you guys were in pivoting during the pandemic because, the past 2 years have been very, very difficult. But I know you get this question a lot. So how do you plan or how do you prepare, with the possibility of having a recession? Like, how do you really plan for this?
That's a great question because I've gone through 2 cycles of almost shutting down my business. So in 2008, we survived the 2008 recession. And also during COVID, I didn't even lay off not a single employee did I lay off. So I really want to share what I do. Number one, the most important, you need to monitor your accounts receivable like a hawk. A lot of creatives, since we're in the architecture profession, they don't like looking at their bank account or their cash flow because it's scary not knowing your future. But if you can spend like 60 to 180 hours drafting or designing, you can spend 30 minutes per week checking your accounts receivable. It's your responsibility as a firm owner to make sure you have enough cash to pay your team members and your employees. So first is really to monitor your accounts receivable like a hawk. Second is cash flow. I'll also really check your cash flow to make sure you have enough. And if you don't, then maybe you cut back on expenses. That's what I did during COVID. I eliminated a few, software subscriptions that I didn't need or unnecessary office expenses. I got rid of my office actually because I didn't need an office when there was no activity. That cut down like almost $1,000 of overhead expense. So things like that, cut down when you can. Number 3, if you are a small firm owner and you have project spikes, make sure you have a network of subcontractors so you don't have to hire and fire people. So right now you should start looking at different subcontractors or consultants that can help you on a per project, per hourly basis instead of hiring full time. Another one is think already of a diversification strategy. So if you're doing retail work, maybe you should try to focus on look for other projects other than retail, maybe something related like quick service or food. A lot of retail stores have cafes inside. Maybe you can tweak your website. Instead of doing retail, you do also quick cafes or the food industry because we know that the food industry, people always buy food. So there's always renovating of like coffee shops and restaurants. So look right now, as early as the first month of, the year, look for ways to diversify your business. And also another thing is look for collaboration partners. Look at your friends who are busy, like people in the architecture space who are working on schools and educational projects or government projects. Because most of the government projects will continue, schools, firehouses. Try to talk to your peers or some of your friends who are firm owners and say, if you need any help later on, if you get too busy, I'm open to collaboration. That's another way of securing, work for your firm. And last but not the least, I think it's the most important is to try to get a line of credit now. This is based on experience. Last year when my business was down and I tried to extend my line of credit, the banks didn't give me a loan because my cash flow was pretty much, it was really bad, so they didn't give me a loan that time. But now when you're cash flow positive and you have a thriving business, make sure you go to your banks and try to get for a line of credit, because chances are you will be able to build up your line of credit and create your cash reserves in case something goes wrong.
Oh my God, these are great tips, Aya. I'm sure your fellow creative entrepreneurs will definitely learn from this. So I hope to those listening in AML will really apply this during their planning for 2023. So now that you have shared how you plan, Aya, of course, we're all very curious as to how you see 2023. So do you mind sharing to us your word of the year?
Mary knows about the word of the year. I talked about
Yeah.
this during our Christmas party. So people don't know that I have a word of the year every year. So when we were heavily focused on retail and the retail was down, I think that was 2019. My word of the year was diversification, because I wanted to diversify. I'm like, retail, there's no retail going on. And so I diversified to hospitality, quick service. That was 2019. 2020, we were able to diversify. Everything was happening. We had hotel projects. So the word for 2020 was accelerate. I wanted to accelerate the growth because we were slamming in projects. So we were able to accelerate and have like 30% increase in sales. But 2021 was COVID. I didn't know what word I had for COVID because, it was kind of tacky to do business development when people were sick, and it was very difficult time. So the word for 2021 was pivot, and that's how we started the Architect My Life podcast and the community, because I wanted to empower women entrepreneurs who had were struggling with their businesses. So that was the word. 2022 was focus. We really narrowed down on our services. Also, this is one thing that I would share with firm owners. If you can really hyper narrow down your services and really specialize on something, you will get a lot more clients if you really have a niche audience, project type. So that's 2022. But I'm really excited for this year's word.
Okay, I'm excited for it too.
It's MGS 2.0. It's basically me
Ooh.
2.0, you 2.0. How do you upgrade yourself as a human being, as a business owner, as an employee, as a mom, as a wife? It's really important to take care of yourself and upgrade your skill sets. So that's 2023 word 2.0.
That's so exciting. So it's MGS 2.0. Oh my God.
Or AML 2.0.
Yes, or AML 2.0. That's so exciting. You know what? Aya, this just goes to show that effective and realistic planning is really key to success. So we're looking forward to that. But of course, since we're in Architect My Life, Aya, what can the listeners expect about the podcast this year? Are there any exciting plans for Architect My Life so far?
This is really great. Architect My Life actually started as a Facebook group, the Architect My Life all women Facebook group. It's really to most of the community are all women, obviously, and people aspiring firm owners and existing firm owners. And we're gonna relaunch this with more exciting things, guests, maybe webinars, just a lot of value for the people who want to learn how to run a business, scale a business. We'll provide a lot of content and maybe have more of a vibrant community. I'm also looking to maybe potentially have a face-to-face event or several events this year in the East Coast, the West Coast, Midwest. So that's in the plans, and I really want to meet a lot of the firm owners. And obviously, I really want to have a lot more amazing guests worldwide, not just in the US.
Wow.
So if you're listening in Asia, Singapore, Dubai, I'm looking for a diversity of women, not just American architects, but global architects. So that's what I'm hoping to achieve.
Oh my God, Aya. I must say, I'm so proud of you. 2023 is just starting, but I'm already having like a really positive expectations, for this year. I'm sure this is going to be just as wonderful, same as last year. So, oh my God, we're finally done. This has been such a really introspective and an amazing conversation with you, Aya. I hope your listeners also enjoyed. It was fun being your host for today. How does it feel to be a guest in your own show?
It's so weird, but I kind of enjoyed it. But I did
I
enjoy
know.
it.
Yes, okay. So this was fun. Thank you so much, Aya.
Thank you so much.
That was Aya Shlachter of Architect My Life and MGS Global Group.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Architect My Life, a podcast brought to you by the MGS Global Group. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you would like to add to the conversation through your own experiences, I encourage you to be a guest on one of our upcoming episodes. Visit architectmylife.com/apply to learn how. I firmly believe that a strong community drives change and fosters success. If you'd like to be part of this community, join the All-Female Architect My Life Facebook group. Please take a moment to review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'd love to hear from you. Be sure to follow me on Instagram at Aya_ArchitectMyLife and Architect My Life Podcast. Thanks again for listening. I'm Aya Shlachter. Until next time.